It's Bastille Day. Viva la France, or however you might say that. I don't know. Ah, all I know is that it was a prison. Ah, you might know tales about it from The Man in the Iron Mask. Whoa, I dreamed once I was a man in an iron mask in a tower and they dropped me into a river. And I said, oh, geez, they were trying to hang me. But the rope broke and I fell into the river and I was under the water. And when I was under there, I thought, well, if they're hanging me as a witch, which I don't know if the man in the iron mask was, but that's what they were hanging me as, I should be able to breathe underwater. And so I inhaled deeply and I could breathe. And I was under the damn river in the current, just flying along, just like I was flying. And I came out and I was in Michigan State campus where I came out of the water and I walked in and there was a dorm. And I went into it and I could see into the cafeteria where people were eating and enjoying each other's company. And there was this one girl, she looked at me and she said, oh, she looked at me standing there right when the mob showed up and grabbed a hold of me. And I smiled at her and she smiled and they grabbed me. And I said, hey, if you're going to do this, you might as well run me through. And the one guy took a knife, he was looking at me and he fucking stabbed me in the neck. And I just started spinning around and spraying blood all over everybody and the glass and everything else. So, there's your Man in the Iron Mask story. It was just a dream, nothing to worry about. I'm not surviving horrific events. Well, that's not true. I've been doing that my whole life. My little slogan for myself when I find myself in a weird situation is I say, I'll be all right. And I've never lied to myself about that yet. But it's Bastille Day. Bastille Day. I think Rush, the band, even sings about it. They do a song. It's July 14th, according to the Old Farmer's Almanac this morning. And the day July 14th has always meant something to me. But for France, it was some sort of liberation. As it turns out, it was this tower, this place at the border, at the wall into Paris and all this. And people like the Marquis de Sade. And see, I had to look this thing up to know what Bastille Day is and how it relates to me. And while I was watching this video about the history of Bastille Day, I saw they talked about the Marquis de Sade, and I said, I know I've got a book in here about him somewhere. And I said, fuck it. I'm not even looking at it. But then when I came out this morning later, there were pictures on the ground that had fallen off of my bookshelf here. And I said, ooh, there's one of my dad. And, well, you know, there's one of me when I was, that's my basic training picture from Fort Knox, Kentucky, 1987. And then there's a picture of me and Victoria, my dad. And there's a picture of me and my dad. He can't complain. He's dead. Anybody wants to talk shit and say I shouldn't be showing these pictures because he wouldn't approve of it, they haven't talked to him about it. And I never did it before he died. There he is. Look at him. That's us. That was a picture there. And there are people there. There were just good pictures. And actually, look at that. See that? That's from My American Spirit Smoking Company. They've always kept in contact with me. And they sent me a card that said, happy birthday. But I saw these things on the floor. And I said, well, I need to pick those up. Those are important pictures. So I went to snug them up underneath a book, just one that would hold them. And the book I chose was the one that I didn't even bother looking for, because I'm like, it could be anywhere. I don't have it alphabetized. I don't have it by category. It's too much to do. Nothing fits together without the interlying twines that hold them. And to walk the line to get to each another, it's crafty, it's tricky. But that book right there, the Marquis de Sade. So he was in there in the Bastille, and he said it wasn't bad. He said they give him plenty of extra room, and they had outside amenities, amenities that they could get from the outside that aren't normal prison stuff. They treated them well, they ate well, which, if you're going to run a prison, what I learned in Alcatraz was that you have to feed the people well, otherwise they'll revolt. That's the one thing for sure. Just fucking feed them good food, keep them shut down. I mean, they can fuck anything around them, but they can't eat it and be satisfied. So the idea was, when Bastille Day happened on July 14th back then, like 1889 or 1789, whenever it happened, it was at the same time our Constitution was happening, and the Revolution had just finished, things like that. They started talking about how people were being treated poorly. That thing had been there for hundreds of years, the way I understand it. And they're like, well, there are people in the dungeon down there, and they're fucking left to starve and die, and they're overcrowded. And when they fucking broke into this thing, there were like 7 people there, which I figure they probably moved some out. But when you've got the Marquis de Sade saying it wasn't so bad, you wonder. They dug up bodies out of earth-bound graves, and they said, look, they starved to death in the fucking dungeon. They talked everybody into believing that awful things were happening in that place, and they were overcrowded. So the mobs gathered together, and it said there were like 965 people or something in the crowd, and the people guarding the gates just said, well, fuck it, we're not going to be able to stop this many people. So they stepped aside and let them in. Those people all went in, and they fucking tore the thing up, I guess. And then there was a New France. I don't know what people thought about it at the time, but they seem to think that it's okay now. I don't know what happens. But as I'm looking at that, I'm thinking that's very similar to the January 6th incident. Only the fucking January 6th rioters and insurrectionists should apply to the Maryland Riot fucking Act somehow. All of them were fucking armed, if not with fucking sticks, with each other, equating a mob, which is able to overrun an individual. Another person's body can be considered a weapon, if you ask me. All you have to do is consider what you call arming yourself. If they'd have succeeded, we'd be a different country right now. And we might be in a place of turmoil, the same as we are right now. But we might come out being a happy fascist community altogether if they had succeeded. And we're not. The problem they run into with looking at dictatorships overrunning democracies all over the fucking planet is that those people are not from the land of the free and the home of the brave. They're brave fucking people here. Even after this happens, even what we're going through, We're not just saying, fuck it, I'll let it go. People are still standing in the streets. There's a bravery in that. There's a fuck you. I won't do what you told me, because they know from looking at the other countries that have just said, I guess you're the guy, that they're not doing so well. It wasn't so easy to take over this fucking nation from we, the people. The difference is, in this home of the brave, the cops themselves, what would have been the guards at Bastille who stood away and let the people in, these cops stood there to not let them in with a bravery that I can't comprehend. I'd have to be fucking stuck in a situation to understand it. And I can tell you, none of you who think that the cops should have stepped aside can comprehend that kind of bravery. You're way below the curve. Fucking megalomaniacs. Just cops stood in front of this fucking mob of people at January 6th and kept them from completing their mission. Even though they didn't know they had one, they were just fucking maniacs running loose. But there was a mission that set them loose that was supposed to be accomplished, and they fucking failed. They are the weakest of the home of the brave. They just went home, got tired. Job's not done. You don't get to eat until the job is done. Treat it like a farm, motherfucker. Job's not done till the work's over. And so that's the difference. And it was what people in France now called like a Liberation Day. And it happens to be July 14th. July 14th, 34 years ago today, I got out of the Army, and I've been celebrating it every year since. I say, that's my Liberation Day. I've been saying that every year I got out of the Army. I didn't like being held in place. You know, I might as well be one of those people in fucking a prison somewhere. But I didn't feel like I was being treated as well as Voltaire and the Marquis de Sade. It's an appropriate day for me to have gotten out of the Army 34 years ago today. I was free on Bastille Day. 38 years ago tomorrow, I was put in shackles at Fort Knox.